Good afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining us. Welcome to Thermopylae Sciences and Technologies webinar for Geospatial Solutions for the Telecommunications Industry. My name is Harris Eisenberg. I'm a Senior Vice President here at Thermopylae, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. I'll be joined in just a few minutes by John Isaac Clark, our Chief Innovations Officer, who will be handling the demonstration portion of this webinar. I wanted to begin by giving a little bit of background on our company. TST is a 7-year-old company. We were started in 2006 performing geospatial services for the U.S. government. About 4 years ago, we began expansion to support commercial customers in geospatial and mobile technologies, specifically within the telecom, energy, and utility sectors. In 2009, we became a Google Enterprise Partner and have since then worked to develop a continuously growing relationship with Google's reps, engineers, and their leadership. During this webinar, we would really like to hear from you and would like to include your voice in the conversation, so please do not hesitate to ask questions, share comments, or otherwise add to the conversation. You can do this by using the chat box in the WebEx to ask your questions, and we will make sure to answer them during the time we have specifically set aside for questions and answers following the demonstration. Throughout our interaction and interviews with leaders in the telecom industry, we've identified some common problems and situations that we believe can be addressed through the application of geospatial technologies, specifically using Google Maps and Google Earth. Some of the pain points and areas that we will explore today will include network upgrades and service expansions and their relative cost. These are very expensive endeavors, so it's important to make choices that provide a significant return on investment. More informed decisions using relevant and near real-time data can help increase that ROI. Identification of appropriate sales targets and high revenue opportunities can be extremely inefficient and time-consuming. By layering demographic data and CRM data that you already have into a system within your existing network, you can more easily see opportunities that you can target. Costly setbacks, dissatisfied customers, and delayed revenue can occur due to inaccurate prediction of completion time windows for customer activations and service calls. Closer coordination of status, locations, and resource planning can help you mitigate these issues across an entire enterprise. Finally, inefficient allocation of mobile workforce and resources results in higher costs, loss of sales, and therefore a loss of revenue. By better tracking your personnel and resources in real time, you can more easily plan and visualize your assets. What we plan to show you today is a way to use off-the-shelf geospatial technologies to address some of the issues I was just discussing. As we take you through an exploration of how Google Geotechnologies can do this, we are going to specifically address spatial analysis and how it allows you to find high revenue opportunities for network expansions and upgrades, how by combining demographic and business information in an easy-to-use environment and incorporating your own local expertise and network data, you can analyze the results from a spatial perspective, giving you a new view of existing data. And finally, giving your mobile workforce access to appropriate network and customer information in the field, and by optimizing fleet schedules and routes in real time, you can facilitate quicker response time to customer orders, service calls, and maintenance. At this point, I'd like to introduce our Chief Innovation Officer, John Isaac Clark, so that we can get into our content. As the Chief Innovation Officer of Thermopylae Sciences and Technology, John provides leadership encompassing product development and direction, technical solutions, consulting best practices, and helps to align these to known and emerging market needs. Before joining us at Thermopylae, John spent nearly a decade in the high-tech startup realm, assisted at numerous technology.com, software, healthcare, and startup ventures, and has over 20 years of experience working in information technology and regularly speaks at various geospatial and mobile symposia, including Google Forums, federal government symposiums, and IT industry events. He's an active member of the Global Spatial Data Infrastructure Association, the Open Geospatial Consortium, and the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. John, I'd like to turn it over to you so you can give our folks an introduction to the technologies we're going to be seeing and then begin the demonstration.
Thanks so much, Harris, and thanks to everyone who joined us today for this webinar. As Harris mentioned, I'm John Isaac Clark, Thermopylae's Chief Innovation Officer. And to set the stage a little bit, I want to talk about how what we're going to present today fits inside your business environment, inside your business systems and workflows. Much of what we're going to show you from our solutions perspectives really sits on top of Google's various enterprise offerings for business. And we'll cover those in a minute, things like Google Maps Engine, their geocode API, and some of their solutions for mobility. But those APIs and those products generally only serve as a platform. They don't inherently meet a business need inside most of our telecom customers' organizations' environments. They provide, though, a fantastic platform that's easily accessible, open to the vast majority of staff without specialized training on high-end GIS tools to help understand your business data and processes very simply. Thermopylae comes in by providing our software and our services on top of that platform where we integrate it around a business problem or a business system our customers are trying to solve, and that results in an end solution that becomes part of their customer environment and part of their IT infrastructure or IT applications and systems. So let's talk a little bit about our products here today and how they fit inside that context. We're all probably familiar with Google Earth and Google Maps, Google's 2D and 3D mapping technologies that we probably all use every day to do things like find directions to a specific shop, restaurant, or location, plan a trip, or even maybe with Google Earth, go see a part of the world we've never been in 3D in a rich kind of experience. But while those are very valuable tools for our personal life, how can we leverage them within a business context? Oftentimes we're faced with having to use in a business setting different mapping technology that might be old or antiquated or might not have relevant and recent information, because by just going to Google Earth or using Google Maps on maps.google.com, you can't really put your business data and information over that. Well, Thermopylae wanted to solve that and provide organizations with an easy and rich starting point to take your enterprise content, your data, your business workflows over Google Maps or Google Earth so that you can actually use that mapping technology to help understand what's happening in your business, what's happened, to plan for the future, and to respond to events much easier. So what iSpatial does is provide a framework to both Google Earth and Google Maps at the bottom of this graphic, where accessing public data stores and information along with your private data information from your enterprise systems like Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, SAP, etc., can be then unified on top of the map and composited with your workflows and data, and then made accessible to your users internally or potentially externally, contract vendors, etc. It's designed to leverage your existing data and provide new capabilities, but still giving you that easy, familiar experience that Google Maps and Google Earth provides. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions that this type of system can enable. When you can see your content and your business data in time and space, it allows you to make decisions faster and easier. Many times we work with customers and find that they'll have data in business system A, but then they'll have to go and look at related content in business system B, and then they'll have to kind of do a third report out of system C in order to get an understanding of the complete picture of maybe what's going on right now with all operations. We work to provide our iSpatial-based business tools to allow organizations to see all their business data in one place in time and space to help make those decisions faster. When you can get that data in one environment, and we're not talking about pulling the data from and replacing these business systems, but rather accessing the core investments you've already made, and you can get that in one place, we then find you can do things like examine processes, how your business is conducting the operations and what processes are being used, and then also compare and contrast that against demographic and market trend data. An example we recently had is if you're making investments in certain let's say, infrastructure, and that infrastructure is then being sold by your sales and marketing team, are you attempting to sell the new infrastructure to customers that are geographically actually close to the infrastructure so that your sales team's efforts can result in calls to customers who have a high probability of being able to take advantage of that infrastructure versus encounter a lot of additional installation costs to get from the customer location to your new infrastructure. So being able to model, measure, and visualize before you put in infrastructure really can also lead to solutions to better assist network planning and engineering, and improve reliability by being able to look at things like network, circuit, and equipment status versus customer request versus issue versus activity all in one place, which finally lets you lead to better modeling of your network performance and your overall business performance. So before we move to Q&A, I'm going to pop to the demo section of our presentation, where what we like to do is show you a little bit of exactly what we're able to do for various businesses by taking their data, Google fundamental geo, and then building some custom use cases around some of the areas I talked about. So what you're looking at now is the iSpatial software framework running over Google Maps. It can also run over Google Earth, the 3D version of Google Maps in a browser. So if you notice now I'm in a three-dimensional view. Some customers have requirements where 3D is important. Things like being able to look at signal propagation and equipment locations, power line runs or telephone equipment line runs. And sometimes 2D is just a more effective way to interact. This is what our software looks like out of the box before any user customization has been performed at all. Generally, our software is customized either by our customers' IT staff, their existing vendors, or through one of our solution teams here at Thermopylae to make it exactly what our customers need it to be to meet their business use case. But it gives you a rich set of capabilities out of the box that we like to call an 80% solution out of the gate that can become easily a 100% solution for your business use case through minor customization. So let's talk a little bit about what iSpatial out of the box lets you do on top of these technologies. Well, one, it easily allows you to connect to content that you already have inside your environment. So it's easy to take traditional sets of data, either in Excel, CSV, KML, or shape files, types of data that you might already have that are that you can bring in for import. And these are examples of content that we've brought in from the Vermont area, which we'll target today, that are representative of various county regions, coverage areas, fiber lines, cell coverage locations, et cetera. And it's real easy for users to simply upload this data, ingest it in the system, and then visualize it. Of course, we do have a large web services API that allows you to connect to data services and sources in your enterprise without having to manually go and ingest content. When the content comes into the system, users can manage the content by simply going to the layer manager, which can be renamed to projects or workspaces or whatever our customers prefer. And this is where that content is then resident in the system. Now, content can be specific to individual users or groups of users, can be shared with all users of the system or any combination, because certain content might only be relevant to certain users or represent information that not everyone needs. We do support role-based access control over content within the system. Here, as an example, you found that we've imported just basic content about zip code regions in the Vermont area. So here we see a number of zip codes covering Vermont. So it's easy to take your traditional types of content set and bring them into the system. This is also very interesting because you can use content you've brought into the system to search for other content. So I could right-click on any one of these zip codes and say search within or geo-search, which would let me search only within that zip code boundary for other information or data inside the system. Maybe I want to know all outages we've ever had inside this specific zip code, or any technician location or work order reports that are active in that area. I could exclusively limit that then to only this zip code, or I could multi-select a number of zip codes and perform the same type of function. I'm going to move to another aspect of being able to manage data. Let's look at current customer data. So being able to take from our CRM or other business data sources our current customer set and overlay them inside this environment can be very helpful. And then we can also tie these individual records to my customer and CRM data sets so that I might perhaps through this data area have all my customer details filled in here, as well as links under the related content section to customer activity events, files, work orders, or records that might relate to this customer. We've even done integration with things like the Google Search Appliance and other search technologies that would also allow me to go and look up other business records and data that exist in my enterprise and correlate those to customers, to circuits, to assets, to activities directly through this interface. So in addition to being able to browse through and look through my content set here just through a kind of traditional layer manager interface, it wouldn't be a really robust tool without the ability to also search for content. So we offer a number of basic text search as well as geo search so that you could, just as you could search within a polygon of a zip code, you could also define an area very simply and find all content that relates inside that area. So here I drew a small little rectangle very simply over Google Earth, and I could add attributes and values, so only customers over a certain threshold, or only areas where I have income over a certain amount, which I'll show in a second, or I could just add keywords. I could add temporal ranges. I could add filtering by types of data I have within the system, and then I could do a lot of operations, things that are only in this area, things that relate to it, things that intersect it. But I'm going to say everything, and what you'll see is only objects returned that are very specific to this area. In this case, we've got fiber lines for Vermont that are showing up here, and if we actually go and edit the geometry and look at this content, we'll see that we have also attribute data about this piece of fiber. In this case, the area, the len, and also who the cable company is for the pieces of fiber. These are extensible, meaning additional data attributes can be added. If you notice, I bounded my search here, and I only then returned results specifically within this area. And I can page through these results if necessary to kind of see the content, add more or less as the user desires. So searching within an area is great, but one of the things we want to show is how this can be used to look at making better informed decisions. So one of the things I'm going to do now is I'm going to do an attribute-based search, and what I've done is I've added some demographic data for various counties. And in this case, I want to search for only counties that have a per capita income from a 1999 survey of greater than $20,000 per household. So I've now executed that search, and what it's going to do is it's going to go through all the content I've imported and now bring back just counties within this region that meet that threshold and criteria. So not only being able to search by a geospatial area, but also a geospatial area where certain criteria exist on the underlying data now makes it a powerful tool for doing research and analysis on my business. Now, we're going to use Chittenden County as an example, so we'll fly to it. And now what I want to do is I want to search against this county only for prospects where our marketing team has identified potential prospect customers within the area. I believe I actually have our marketing team here and labeled that potential. So now we're searching against another underlying data set where what we have is only the types of, the only customers that exist in Chittenden County that our marketing team has identified as potential customers based on where our infrastructure is in that area. So I did a search for a county over a certain type of income level. Then I searched only within that county for folks that the sales and marketing or the marketing side of our business has identified as potential customers. So perhaps from a sales side, this could be used in an example where I want to be able to identify, beyond just traditional CRM lists, content, enterprise infrastructure, et cetera, that only relate to a specific region. Let's clear these search results and let's talk about another use case. Being able to tell a story about information is sometimes very important. a lot of times we have to go back through written reports and information of that nature to understand what's going on where. One of the great things iSpatial also offers out of the box is the ability to stage views into your content and data. So here I've turned on a set of my DSL coverage region for Vermont. I'm actually going to hide the entire layer and only start turning on a couple segments of my DSL coverage. Let's turn off this first one. We'll leave kind of the stuff to the north. What the slideshow tool or report tool allows us to do is set pre-staged views of content and begin creating a report or a story out of that so that I can share that with other business users and they can understand kind of what is happened, what's planned, or what's going on. Think of it as like kind of a quick and easy dashboard or almost a PowerPoint presentation. So we're often going to say DSL, current coverage, and incidents. And this would be the title for my presentation. Now that I've created it, I can begin setting various views and capture a slide. We'll call this Northern Vermont DSL areas. And I'm going to capture that slide by saving it. What it's now done is set what I'm looking at and what I have turned on to allow me to now insert that into the slide. So if I had a second slide, after zooming out and let's say turning on all of our DSL coverage for the area, and let's go all 55 of them, I could set a second slide called, Vermont DSL entire coverage map. Save this slide. And if you notice what happens once I go to present my presentation, as soon as I go into present mode, it flies me to and sets exactly the view state that was in that slide 1. And as I now advance to additional slides, like my second slide, you notice it changes what content is turned on and changes the view state. We can even go in and start adding additional content in here as well. So let's perhaps add our Vermont zip codes layer that we want to overlay in comparison with our DSL, and now we'll add another slide, and we'll make this the Burlington zip code and DSL slide. So now we notice that we have multiple slides here, each staging the data and information that we've selected at each step to tell the story and kind of convey the information we want. So we've seen this used for everything for outage response planning, to marketing and sales team, through infrastructure development or service assurance planning as a way to take the underlying content in the system and easily share and tell information that other users can see and understand without having to say, go in, search for that, look for this. It's an easy way to present the information. Another interesting aspect of iSpatial is the ability to create basic geofencing and geoboundaries where a certain criteria exist or are met that the users of the iSpatial system can be alerted and notified. In this example, we've set up a simple area or boundary around the Richmond, Virginia area. We can create rules that allow us to define what type of activity or event we want to be alerted on within this area. I've said if any of the activity is inside my boundary for Richmond, this might be a service delivery area or a circuit region, for instance. I can then also define targets, and targets are data points that might exist currently or in the future that meet a certain criteria. And in this case, I've made it very simplistic. I've just created a target, and I've said if this actually gets inside the Richmond area, we want to know about it. I could also have defined through customization additional attributes. For instance, if we ever have a ticket inside the Richmond Air Service area where its customer type is priority or IBM or one of our important customer sets, I would then want to be notified of that event and create inside this area based on our kind of geofencing capability. In this instance, I've simply said if I have an event of this type occur in the area, I want to be notified. So being able to create these basic types of events and systems across your existing data can be very powerful for alerts and notifications, for triggering certain types of events based on certain conditions occurring, and it's really a very simple visual interface that you can use to interact with and create these types of scenarios. Tracking allows you to track real-time events visually through the display or real-time locations of objects or individuals. Organizations use this often for tracking technicians versus outages, the ability to do things like when a technician reports that he's at a specific location or nearing it, send a customer an automated text or email or phone call that the technician is arriving, or from their workforce management, be able to have situational awareness into their field staff much more quickly and effectively. In that instance, any object that I track, whether it be a real life vehicle or individual or a data point within the system, will show up within the tracking interface, and you can then simply fly to them and watch their location as they're modified. So in this case, if I was tracking this Richmond object here, if it was moving around, it would automatically update and move over the map in real time, and I could then see that without having to refresh my browser every time that object was modified. Finally, session sharing is a very unique feature that allows multiple users to collaborate around information together. Similar to this WebEx today, session sharing allows me to create a session that other users and individuals can join. And as I move my map between 2D and 3D, as I turn on or off content within specific areas, the other users in the session follow along within theirs. And let's give a second here to see if I can demonstrate this a little further. If I was able to turn on a specific area and had a session, and I hid all these zip codes, all the session participant zip codes would then be hidden. If I move and zoom in or out of specific areas, for instance Pittsburgh, and then turn on content, all the other session participants would be updated. It really provides a two-way interactive session for all of us to collaborate around information, which is very helpful for planning purposes, for handing off workflows from user A or to user B, and being able to real-time interact with content. Lastly, being able to simply add and author information directly within the tool is an important part of the capability. Being able to title, add content quickly within iSpatial, as well as style that content very simply to meet the look and feel that you need for your business, the icons, the colors that you typically apply, is very simple to perform within the tool. It's very easy to assign icon palettes, select icons, select the color for features, and these can all be defined as a style. So for instance, if I wanted to have every new proposed region show up a specific way, I could go to my style manager, create a new style, proposed region, enter the default title and description if necessary for each of those, select the icon palette. In this case, we're going to switch to that, and we'll make this red and save. Notice now that we have a proposed region style showing up within our user interface now. So I can now simply go back to this object and now style the object with the style I just created. And you now notice that the object I created takes on the new style. I can manage new content that I created very simply. Could create a new folder here called Proposed Regions. And then take that content that I authored and easily drag it and move it back and forth between my workspace and the folder so that I could now continue to add content for additional regions. Content within iSpatial is easily shared. I can choose to share the content with all users or other specific users in the system. I can also easily get content out. Content can be exported as KML, GML, GeoJSON, PGDump, Shape, CSV, etc. And it can also be consumed, any layer of content in iSpatial can also be consumed by other GIS or geo tools as WFS or Web Feature Service, so that the content you create and import in iSpatial is easily consumable by other business systems inside your enterprise. So, to close, being able to take your data and information and easily add it to the iSpatial-based system, being able to use that then tool as the starting point to solve a business problem, customizing and adding your workflows as needed is a very unique aspect of the capability. And to do that, taking Google's background data, public data and information, and your business enterprise data all in one place gives you a lot of flexibility. To close, I'd like to show just a brief example of how most customers end up customizing iSpatial around a specific business use case. Here we had a customer who, while not in the telecom industry, wanted to show something very similar to their current network of, in this case, a supply chain. So how was data and information, or in their case, physical goods, moving between specific areas? What was the current status, and what was impacting in real time that supply chain? So for the telecom industry, what's analogous here is these might be either various fiber lines or circuits or communications infrastructure that you're getting pulled from your data systems, and we're showing real-time events that are impacting that in a very simple, easy-to-use view. But you notice between the two interfaces, this has been heavily customized, although it didn't take a lot of time. It only took a few weeks for one or two of our consultants to do. They were able to connect to their business data, in this case SAP, and then also external and internal systems to look at what was impacting their current supply chain. So if we turn to our alerts layer, what we'll notice is that there's multiple events impacting this right now, including port operations and shipping routes. And this is actually coming from a combination of publicly available external data as well as internal data. And we can now see the specific events, in this case a cyclone Ferdinand, that is actually impacting the supply routes as well as this specific port. So being able to take outage information, network monitoring equipment, or public weather or information and composite this over your data information, the same exact capability could be delivered on top of telecom infrastructure and visualization versus a supply chain in this case. But this just represents a really great example of a customer who took the iSpatial technology, applied it around a use case, understanding their business data versus external information, who is now able to very quickly have a dashboard into what's currently happening right now and why, without having to touch 5 or 6 different business systems to accomplish it. So with that being said, I'm going to return to the slides, and at this point, turn it back over to Harris Eisenberg to moderate any questions that folks might have. Harris?
Thanks, John, and thanks again for taking us through that demonstration. It's really our hope that through some of the simple demonstrations within the tool that John was able to show, it really got some of you to think about your own specific use cases and how your specific business might be able to benefit from interactions with a Google Maps tool like the one that John just showed. At this point, we're going to begin the question and answer portion of the webinar. I see that we already have a series of questions that we're going to be addressing. If you have a question and you have not yet entered it into the chat area, please do so now, and we'll make sure to answer it time pending. So let's start off with the first question that we've got here, which is how well does this integrate with other databases, and how can it be used with the question asker's pre-existing data?
Great question. Appreciate the ask. If we go to iSpatial, what we'll realize here is that the data stored here is flexible and can be configured against a couple different core databases, including things like the open source Postgres or PostGIS database, things like Oracle, as well as other database technologies. A lot of times, though, our objective is not to take data out of our customers' existing databases and put it into iSpatial, but rather to connect content in iSpatial to our pre-existing data sets inside the customer enterprise. So an example of that might be that I have stored inside iSpatial my DSL coverage map area, but then when I interact with one of these DSL coverage areas, I have linked or related content to my CRM system that would then only show me under the related content area customers from my CRM system who existed within that specific selected coverage area. So a lot of times what this is about doing is about creating a visualization environment that's pulling data from multiple systems into a visualization for the user to operate in, but not about taking data from multiple disparate business systems and dropping all the content into yet another data store where you have to worry about, is it up to date, is it accurate, can users change it here? It's really about connecting to and not replacing. But as a technology, iSpatial does support multiple different database technologies on the back end, and through our web services stack can integrate closely with multiple other data stores or web services in your enterprise architecture and infrastructure that can enable access to that other data. Next question.
Thanks, John. Yeah, the next question we have is about mobile access. The question is, you mentioned mobile access and coordination. Could you please elaborate on how that works?
Absolutely. Thermopylae also has a technology called Ubiquity, which is used to rapidly create field-based applications or customer or partner tools that enable you to interact directly with individuals in the field, potentially including workforce management tracking of individual users, being able to interact and collaborate with them, send them files, send them data. But also, we provide the ability to expose a lot of content in iSpatial back out to mobile applications or other tools via OGC-compliant web services. So here in this example, you see that content coming from iSpatial is being made available inside one of our Ubiquity-based mobile applications for iOS or Android, and the customer can very simply kind of add mobile functionality they need. Maybe I need to collect new field-based information, so I'll just add a form, fill some questions out, and this will then be pushed down to the mobile device. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that iSpatial can't integrate with existing mobile applications you have or asset or personnel tracking tools for workforce management, and in that case, our tracking capability is where a lot of content on either field worker location or the ability to interact, chat, or assign tasks to mobile devices can then be accommodated through. And remember, what you're seeing with iSpatial here is where our customers start on day one. They start with a rich set of capabilities. However, just as in this example, it's then generally customized around their specific workflow, their specific need, which makes the tool then present only the features and capabilities the customer needs that's relevant to them. But they don't have to pay for 100% of that from the ground up. You're starting with a very capable platform to begin with over a very well-known set of geospatial technologies that almost all your users will instantly be able to begin interacting with without high amounts of training, et cetera, as your starting point.
Thanks, John. Our next question is one actually that we get pretty often, and it is this a secure platform, and is the data stored in the cloud?
That's a great question. The answer is any or none. So we, due to our focus originally as a business with the government and defense and intelligence community spaces, have lots of familiarity with customers who have certain types of data they can't store in the cloud, and scenarios like emergency operations response, outage management, where there may not be good internet connectivity to, and if that connectivity is not there, then this tool is not capable. So the iSpatial tool can be integrated in both 100% on-premise, disconnected, solely inside your environment, and solely on your infrastructure. Partially cloud-hosted, we're using things like Google's Maps engine technology. We're able to store certain content in the cloud while iSpatial and the rest of the data lives in your infrastructure. Or if the content and the data and information you're using inside iSpatial is not competitive sensitive or something that you can't store in the cloud, iSpatial can be completely run from cloud hosting providers like Google, like Amazon, and others.
Great. We have another question here, John, that I think you touched on a moment ago, and that's what elements of this tool are customizable?
iSpatial, again, as a starting point. While it has a lot of features and functions, it's designed to be changed. iSpatial can be changed literally at any aspect of the front-end user interface or any aspect of the back-end web services stack so that it can be integrated with existing business systems, with existing workflows. The entire user interface on the front end can be modified through our software development kit, and the entire back-end stack can be enhanced to meet new use cases or to modify functions to meet specific needs. That can be, again, performed through software development staff that already work and exist within the IT groups at our customers, through existing technology vendors that they may employ, or through Thermopylae's solution services team, which can come in and customize iSpatial very quickly and has great expertise in doing that for our customers for their specific needs. And that's generally done through discussion with the customer about what they're trying to accomplish, looking at their budget and timeline, and then making those customizations iteratively in a way that we know is going to be successful and immediately show that value to their organization at an ROI level.
Great. Well, I think that might be all the questions that we received, unless are there any others that we didn't see? No. Okay. Well, great. Thanks, John, for taking us through the questions that were asked. So I guess that is going to wrap up our demonstration for the webinar. We are going to be sending out an email alert regarding the on-demand status of today's demonstration so that you can review the material, anything you might have missed, if you'd like to simply go over it again, and also we encourage you to share it with any of your colleagues that you think might be interested in this topic. If anyone is interested in more detailed information, has follow-up questions, or would like to arrange a one-on-one conversation, please, by all means, contact us by emailing me directly at hisenberg@t-sciences.com or by calling me directly at 703-436-8562. All the information necessary is found on this slide with my smiling face. On behalf of our team here at Thermopylae Sciences and Technology, we sincerely thank you for taking the time to join us today and to view our presentation. We do hope you learned something and hope that you can join us again for future webinars. Again, my name is Harris Eisenberg. I was joined by John Isaac Clark, and we really hope that you have a great day. Thanks again.